This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Good morning, I'm Justin Warmoth. This week, a judge will hear a lawsuit against the Florida Department of Health over coronavirus case numbers. The state's COVID dashboard used to be updated daily, but a few months ago, they switched to weekly reports that aren't as detailed. Our guest this morning is the lawmaker behind the lawsuit, Orlando Representative Carlos Guillermo-Smith, who says he simply wants the state to resume what was already in place.
Tell us about this lawsuit and how it got to this point.
Right. Well, back in early June, the DeSantis administration took down what is known as Florida's daily COVID dashboard reporting. A lot of your viewers probably remember that because for close to a year during the pandemic, there was a dashboard platform where folks could go to get all the information that they wanted to about COVID, whether it was new cases in their area, hospitalizations, certainly deaths in their area, and vaccination rates. You could also get information about COVID-19 cases in the schools, and you could get it broken down by age. But the justification for taking down the dashboard that the DeSantis administration gave us in early June was that at the time, of course, we had lower positivity rates across the state from COVID. We had high vaccination rates. And they said that, there was no longer a need for this detailed information. Of course, since then, the Delta variant took hold of the state of Florida, and we saw an explosion of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. But we didn't get a return of that detailed information. And the reason it's important for people to have access to real-time data as it relates to how COVID is impacting their local community is so that they can make informed decisions on how to best protect themselves and their families. So I specifically filed a records request back in July to try to get a detailed breakdown of what was happening in Orange County. For example, I wanted to know how many children were currently hospitalized in Orange County with COVID-19. The state couldn't tell us. They wouldn't tell us. And it wasn't available through any of the reporting. So I filed a public records request, which the DeSantis administration rejected. They claimed the information we were looking for was confidential and not subject to public record, which is not true. We're not asking for their names or their social security numbers. We just wanted the raw data. And when they rejected our request for public records, this is not just bad governance. This is actually a violation of the state constitution and our state public records laws. That's why we're suing them, so that we can get the information that folks need to make informed decisions, and we can hold the DeSantis administration accountable because they repeatedly violate public records laws and are denying Floridians access to real-time information that can help save their lives.
Why do you think they stopped and when they saw the case count and everything like that, and Delta variant spreading rapidly, why not just reverse course? What do you think is the purpose behind withholding this information?
Right. So it's been about 3 months that they have been hiding all of the detailed COVID-19 data in Florida that we used to have access to on a daily basis. Based on what I've seen, there's no explanation other than the fact that they want to suppress the severity of the COVID-19 crisis in the state of Florida. We know that Governor DeSantis has made a number of controversial moves in the state, from banning local school districts from being able to require masks while case counts and hospitalizations, even in children, were surging. And so it looks like their strategy was just suppress the severity of the crisis, and people won't really know how serious of a situation this is. And of course, it helps the governor politically. He has consistently put his own political ambitions over, the lives of the people of Florida, and hiding this COVID-19 data is just one part of his overall politics over people kind of philosophy of governing at any cost.
So the hearing is set for this week coming up next week. What do you expect to happen, and what do you expect the judge to decide?
Well, on Monday, we had a pretrial hearing with Judge Cooper on our lawsuit, and it was another bad day in court for Governor DeSantis. Judge Cooper basically overruled the DeSantis administration's attorneys and their objection, and he allowed for every major newspaper in the state, plus the Associated Press, Washington Post, and New York Times, to formally intervene in our lawsuit as plaintiffs in support of our lawsuit.
What impact does that have? That's a big deal. Why is that a big deal?
Well, it's a big deal because it's not just everyday Floridians, parents, and healthcare professionals and doctors who are seeking to obtain the detailed COVID-19 data across the state of Florida. Members of the media as well need to get access to this information because the freedom of the press is there in our Constitution so that the press has the ability to report on what government is doing and inform the residents of our state. It makes it so much harder for them to do that when the state and Governor DeSantis is suppressing COVID-19 data to make himself look better. So I welcome all of these media giants and every major paper in the state of Florida joining our lawsuit because it gives it even more credibility and even more strength. But the DeSantis administration attorneys also failed to delay our trial. We'll start next week. We're entitled to an immediate hearing based on the fact that this is a public records lawsuit. But what the judge seemed really skeptical of at our pretrial hearing was this idea that the DeSantis administration was arguing that only they can decide what is a public record and what is not. That is totally bogus. Every Floridian has a constitutional right to freedom of information. That includes access to this COVID-19 data and how it's impacting their area. The DeSantis administration doesn't want to give it to us, and that's why we're suing them.
We'll be watching to see what comes out of that. Also, an announcement made this past week. Florida has a new Surgeon General. What do you make of the new hire here?
Well, it's hard to imagine that things could get any worse with the DeSantis administration. But here we have this so-called doctor who, by the way, joined the famous demon sperm press conference last year that was held in Washington with a bunch of kook physicians who were touting ineffective cures to COVID-19. He is very skeptical of COVID-19 vaccines. He is anti-mask. He's anti-science. And I think that, unfortunately, the selection of this Surgeon General is not only reckless, but it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. He's already issued this new decree, which seems unconstitutional, where he's saying now parents can decide whether or not to quarantine their child at home after being exposed to COVID-19 in school. Listen, there's a reason we do contact tracing. It's so that you can identify who has been legitimately exposed to COVID, and you can keep them somewhere separate and quarantine them so that they don't infect other people. The idea that a parent will now be able to decide, as long as their child is asymptomatic, whether to send their kid back to school so that they can infect others is totally reckless. Mm-hmm. And looking at the facts, Justin, I think it's important to point out, in the last 7 weeks, the death toll for Florida's children due to COVID-19 has doubled, more than doubled, compared to the duration of the pandemic. For 15 months, we saw 7 children died from COVID-19 in the state of Florida. That number is now up to 19 or more. Mm-hmm. And it's a direct result not only of the Delta variant and how this new mutation is impacting younger people and children, but also, unfortunately, a result of the reckless governance of Governor Ron DeSantis.
This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Welcome back. Our guest this morning is Orlando Representative Carlos Guillermo Smith, whose lawsuit against the Florida Department of Health over COVID data will be heard by a judge this week. In this portion of the discussion, Smith will react to the Texas-style abortion bill that was recently filed by a Florida lawmaker. But first, the ongoing fight over masks in schools.
We're almost to the 2-month mark of school starting, and yet it seems every week there is and this is just on the local level, there is a school board meeting with the subject of masks and whether or not parents should have the option to opt their kids out. They get heated. There have been arrests made at these. I mean, what do you make of what's playing out at our local school boards?
It's really frustrating because many of the parents that are showing up at school board meetings are traveling around the state. They don't send kids to these particular public schools, and they're basically going from one school board meeting to the next to promote their anti-science, anti-mask, anti-vaccine message. And what's really unfortunate is that some school board districts have decided that they're going to side with these same parents who sometimes even will allege that people who wear masks are part of a demonic cult. They are now taking over what policies are being implemented. They are bullying school districts into not requiring masks and, not engaging in the mitigation efforts that we know will keep kids healthy and will save lives. And that's what's happening in the state now. These folks who are a small percentage of the population, a fringe part of the population who don't believe in science, they have taken over Florida. And that is very concerning because we need to do everything that we can to protect our kids, our teachers, and the rest of us from this deadly virus that's already killed 52,000 Floridians.
In September of 2020, if you looked ahead and said in September 2021, did you expect it to be such a topic like it was then? I mean, what do you make of the last 20 months or so?
I don't think any of us expected us to be back to where we are right now, where we should be wearing masks to protect ourselves, specifically when we're indoors, especially with larger crowds, that we're having to continue social distancing, that we keep having to try to convince our friends, our neighbors, and our family members to get vaccinated, because that's the most important and effective tool that we can use to try to finally end this pandemic and save lives. But I think what's important for folks to understand is we can't take any tools off of the table to try to mitigate the spread of the disease and mitigate, the spread of this deadly virus. For example, Governor DeSantis has been promoting the monoclonal antibody treatment, which is an important tool for us to use. We need to make sure that folks have access to that antibody treatment if they get infected with COVID-19, because it is effective with avoiding hospitalization. What my issue is with the governor's leadership, or lack thereof, is he's pretty much given up on promoting vaccines as the most important thing that we can do to prevent infection. He is pandering to an anti-mask, anti-vaccination crowd to promote his own political ambitions and a future run for president. And unfortunately, it is a disservice to Floridians, and it has cost many lives.
I want to talk about other topics other than COVID, one of which is an abortion bill that was filed by one of your Republican colleagues. Now, the legislative session, we're still several months out, but this, obviously, a lot of people are reacting to this heartbeat bill, but it's very similar to what was passed in Texas. And I think that's what's concerning some people and exciting others, because it's a very divisive topic. But I just want to know what your reaction to this piece of legislation is, and your message to Floridians who might be concerned about it.
Well, I want to make sure that your viewers understand the idea of effectively banning all abortions in the state of Florida is a very real threat. Republicans in the legislature and Governor Ron DeSantis, they are serious about enacting a 6-week abortion ban, just like Texas already did. This is a thing, and we need them to be engaged in the fight against this terrible legislation. The reality is that cutting off safe and legal access to abortion after just 6 weeks of a woman being pregnant is before a majority of women even know that they're pregnant, which will effectively ban all abortions in the state of Florida. But the reality is that if you want to end abortions, you need to help women have access to reproductive health care. You need to help them have access to care so that they can prevent unintended pregnancies. A law like this is not going to result in less abortions. It means that we're going to have less legal abortions in the state of Florida, and we'll be turning the social clock back decades to a time where no one wants to think about, where the health and safety of the mother was in jeopardy because of their inability to access abortion. This is a very serious threat. I would encourage your viewers to contact their state senators and their state representatives in opposition, because Florida Republicans are very serious about enacting this extreme abortion ban in the state of Florida.
So we know that abortion bill will be certainly a talking point as we move through the end of this year and into next year. Another huge topic that will be discussed is certainly redistricting. And I want, if you could briefly explain to our viewers the process behind redistricting and the ramifications it has.
Sure. Well, after the census is done every 10 years, state legislatures like ours in Florida are required to draw new district lines for the state house, for the state senate, and for members of Congress. And the reason that's really important is we've seen a number of population changes in the state of Florida, and we want to make sure that every area, for example, here in Orange County and Orlando, where we've seen a population explosion, particularly down in Osceola County, where so many folks have moved to that area, is we need to make sure that we have more funding for our public schools. We need to have more funding for transportation and infrastructure and healthcare. And the way that we have that is through accurate representation for our geographic area. So what we also need to make sure happens during this process where new district lines are drawn is that they're drawn fairly and that we do not have partisan gerrymandering, which is where politicians select their voters as opposed to voters selecting their politicians. The Florida legislature has a bad track record of unfortunately drawing very gerrymandered maps that favor one political party over another. But Florida voters changed the Constitution in 2010 when they passed the Fair Districts Amendment, which banned partisan gerrymandering. The concern I have is that we now have a majority conservative Florida Supreme Court that recently had 3 new justices appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, don't get me wrong. All of our judges are required to follow and respect the Constitution that bans partisan gerrymandering. But I do have concerns that this Florida Supreme Court may, just like the legislature has in the past, ignore the Constitution, which is why it's so important for people to be engaged in this process. And they demand that not only legislators, but our judges and our courts respect and follow the Constitution and not allow for partisan gerrymandered districts.